Well, howdy there, y'all. YAMAHSAKI here. Welcome back to the channel. And this is part 10 of the Lauson Model W hit and miss engine restoration. I tell you what, you're going to want to stick around for this one because things got a little interesting after I finally got this thing all put together. And due to certain circumstances, I'm naming this thing the successful failure. You know, kind of like Apollo 13, how they made it into space but didn't make it to the moon and made it back safe and sound. And you'll figure out why I've named it that if you stick around. So let's get to it. So I'm just going to get straight to the very sad point. We will not be able to see this thing run due to some very elusive paranormal activity going on with this thing. I, for the life of me, cannot get it started. I just can't. I've done everything in the books, everything the manuals told me, even talked to some fellows that know what they're doing with these things, because this is the first one I've restored. I have engine experience, but nothing when it comes to an old hit and miss. This is my first attempt. And yeah, I cannot get it started. I think it has to come down to the three major things: compression, spark, and timing. It could be one of those things. It could be all three of them. I don't know. I have no idea. I think it comes down to the fact that maybe my magneto is bad, or I just don't have enough compression. And the timing, well, I'm just guessing on that. But I've been battling this thing for a while now, and I've been taping it along my journey. So we'll go ahead and look at what I've tried to do to remedy some of these things. Okay, so it's day 4 after the rebuild, and we have some issues. I've been fighting like hell for the past couple of days to get this thing to pop over and run, and I can't do it. I've only gotten a couple of consistent backfires. So we have some major issues going on here. Number one, my dad was tinkering with it this afternoon and figured out that I'm losing a whole bunch of compression out the exhaust valve, so that doesn't help. So I'm going to have to take the head off and relap those valves properly, because our redneck valve lapping job did not work whatsoever. Was also losing a lot of compression through the head gasket. The old head gasket and the old ring just weren't doing it, so I had to take some gasket material and cut 2 new gaskets and put them on there, and it seems to be sealing up properly now. I'll have to show you guys the old head gasket. It's pretty interesting. Next thing is the timing. Considering I can't figure out the timing marks whatsoever on this thing, I'm having to do it from what the manual's telling me, and I'll show you the manual in a little bit. We'll go in more depth in the manual, but that's for a later time. But I can't find the timing marks, so I'm having to go off what the manual's telling me. And we'll get into that in a little bit, but I'll show you one of the other issues, one of the other possible issues that might be contributing to this thing not firing up properly. This right here is the magneto actuator. And from what I can tell is mine was not set up properly at all. I'm gonna have to go through this thing, and I think I may have figured it out. See, I'll have to show you a picture real quick on what mine looked like when I got it, when it was set up. And I had set it up exactly the way I took it apart, which is not correct, at least I don't think. Alright, so I have a picture pulled up on my phone here of what my actuator looked like when I had got it, minus these 2 washers on the front. It had a lock washer on the front holding the pin on, which holds your return spring and everything else in place. But this thing's very simply built. You've got a rod that goes through. And then you have another rod that's connected via 2 nuts that you can adjust. Whoops. That you can adjust. Then you have your little magneto advance knob or whatever it is. And then you have a little cylinder in there that kind of meshes with that. You have your spring, you have your return spring, and then your very end with your pin and your washer. Well, mine has this really weird setup right here. See, I added those washers, remember? I added one at least. The other one came in because I was trying to adjust it when I was trying to get it started. But nowhere in this manual does it have this setup right here behind on the big spring, which is this piece right here. It was sitting right in between the actuator and this spring. And to me, I thought it was original, but now that I'm looking at it more closely, that's just a bunch of washers that have been together for so long that they rusted themselves together. So, I don't know, there's a lot of weird things that were jerry-rigged on this engine to make me think that the guy that owned it before me, or even the guys that owned it before him, had this thing set up running on its last legs, or it was set up to run very specifically to run something. I still don't know. But anyway, that's what mine looked like when I got it. This is what it's actually supposed to look like from the manual's point of view. So you've got your push rod right here, right? And then you have your piece that goes down to connect the other rod that operates your magneto right here. And as you can see, alright, there's our rod, there's our nuts, there's our other rod that's sticking in there. So then we have our big spring, our little timing advance and retard switch right there, our return spring, and there's our pin. Nowhere do I see a whole bunch of washers massed together to operate this thing. The only thing I see is maybe a washer right here, a washer right here, smaller washer to keep the spring on against the pin, and then everything else is normal. So I'm going to have to put this thing back together in that order, or at least try to. Might have to add another washer here too, from the looks of it. So yeah, I'm just going to have to see if me fixing this solves part of the issues on the timing, which we're going to get into that now. So most hit and miss engines operate the same way. They're all slightly different, but like I just said, they operate the same. What this manual's telling me is this crankshaft has to be back around 25 degrees or so, like this, when the exhaust valve starts to open, which is what it's currently kind of set at right now, because I've timed this thing at least 5 billion times now. Can I get this other page here? Let's see if I can accomplish that at least. On the other side here, it says testing for point of ignition and timing. When it fires, you want your crankshaft to be 25 degrees or so down. That's pressing all the gases and all the air mixture and the fuel mixture here, which will make it go boom, flip around, and that's when, if we flip back to the other side, that's when it gets to this position, the exhaust valve should start to open to push all those excess gases out. So let me show you that. So right now, whoa, my camera's really blurry. Hang on. There we go. Alright, so we're right about that point, and it's going to start to open right about there. I think I might be just a tiny bit off because I think I need to have a little bit more of an angle. But since the spark plug's out, it should technically fire right about there. So it's going to fire, it's going to come around, and that exhaust valve should open. So I think I have it set at the right timing, almost. We're not 180 degrees off, and I'm sure I've been there a couple times since I've timed it. That is for sure. But yeah, we definitely have some issues to resolve here before this thing's even going to run. And before I forget, here's the old head gasket. Looks to me, because I don't know if this is metal or what this is, just a ring. Almost looks to me like this came off of a different engine, judging by these. Because this is where a lot of the compression gas was getting lost, is at these little slits here. So my guess is this was a head gasket off of something else, another hit and miss, and someone modified it as a quick fix for this old engine. But as you can see, this thing seen better days. But I guess that can be my template. That was my template when I cut out the other two gaskets out of this paper. I just cut two out and laid them on there, and I think it'll hold, because after we put those on, the compression went up a considerable amount, but still not enough to make the dang thing run due to those valves. And I guess one more thing I should add is, for some reason my oiler is liking to leak. Don't know if I got that seal on there too loose or what's going on, but seems to be working. It's just leaking, unfortunately. If I go over here, this piece here is the adapter that goes on the pipe down to your cylinder and connects your oiler. Well, I don't know if you can see that, but the thing ain't very straight. And just that slight amount right there is making this thing not want to function on this machine unless I fully have the needle out, which is not going to cut it. So I'm hoping with any luck I get all these little knick-knack issues resolved and we'll have this thing up and running. I took a couple minutes and hopefully assembled this actuator right. I mean, it looks way better now. I mean, got the nuts. It did have a big nut and a little nut, but I bought two new ones. This one's the same size as the big one, but this one's more slim, I think, for more adjustment. But if I need to, I can always take that one back off. And you know, but it's got a good amount of tension on it. I got a washer here, here, and here. And yeah, so hopefully it's gonna work. Right, so a couple days later, and everything I've done has done nothing. Alright, we're doing good. We're doing good here, y'all. Anyway, went ahead, lapped the valves. No, the valves are good, because they got new shiny metal on all the surfaces, and I even, when I had the head off and I was especially doing the exhaust valve first to get that one out of the way, I was holding the valve and I blew through here and I couldn't get air to pass through. So I think we're good on the valves because I did both of them. As for the timing, I know I have it right, pretty dang sure, because I've done the timing at least 10 billion times at this point. And our new actuator is working pretty good. But sadly, the thing will not run. Let me turn it over here. I know we're gaining compression, but I think that's our problem. So, we're almost there. Almost. And I forgot to tell you guys, but another easy way to time this Lauson 1.5 horsepower, if you all have one, there's going to be an arrow that shows up on the rim of the flywheel here as soon as I get done turning it. See, there it is. There it is. Can't really see it. There it is. But in the manual, aside from figuring out your crankshaft points and when this thing is supposed to trip at top dead center, what Lauson did is they did an ingenious little thing where they put an arrow right here. And all the manual says is this arrow needs to be lined up right here with the exhaust rod. Pretty much your push rod, because that's the only rod on here. So when this thing gets there, that just tripped. Now I know that the ignition timing is on point. Had to take the new nut off and add the old one, the smaller one. No biggie. There's a good amount of tension here now. So this is working properly. I know that. I don't know if you guys noticed, I got a new fitting for the oiler. Good old dad went and picked that up for me. It's on there nice and solid. Still got to deal with the oiler, still leaking. Pretty sure I just need to fiddle around with it. And yeah, we'll get that out of the way. But my dad's girlfriend went ahead and put a post on Facebook. Some of you out there might have seen it if you're in the Montana area. But got in a hold of this one guy who said he's done 100 of these old hit and miss engines. And he gave me some advice. Number one, he was trying to tell me about the magneto, how the tension here when this thing snaps. Feels pretty strong. He said I can use an ohm meter to test the spark and everything. Also mentioned that if there's new paint in places, see, this thing needs to be grounded, right? It's electricity. Needs to have a ground. He said on points like here, probably the back, they need to be metal-to-metal contact to, you know, have a good electrical contact. But he did say if I was holding it up, if I took the spark plug out and was holding it at the spark plug hole and I was getting spark, well, he said, you know, you're pretty well off in terms of spark. I did mention to him that the old head gasket was, you know, makeshift, at least the original one, and I went ahead and used some paper gaskets. He said, you know, those won't hold up as well. Might want to do a neoprene gasket, get some neoprene material. So I'm going to go ahead and do that tomorrow. I do need a thicker one. You see, that's the problem. That old head gasket over there is way thicker than these two paper ones combined. And it's causing a little bit of issue when it comes up to lining my little fuel tank main line right there. Because the gasket, the old gasket was thicker, so the head was pushed out just a hair more than where it's at. You can kind of see right there how it's not lining up. Pretty sure I can just loosen up everything and slide the tank back, but I'm sure if I got a proper thick head gasket, or at least made one, it'll definitely help with that. And I can always bend the line too. Lots of customizability. He was asking if I was turning it right. All of them turn backwards, clockwise. So I can definitely feel there's more compression, but still not enough. Because it's all timed right. Magneto's sparking. We're getting spark. You know, everything's there that needs to be there for it to run, but it's not running. But he also mentioned another thing that I didn't take into consideration. You know how a piston has piston rings? You know how those piston rings have a little gap? Even my brother-in-law was telling me that they need to be opposite of each other. One gap on this side and one gap on the other side. And then there's a third one, so it doesn't really matter, just on the other side or, you know, whatever. I didn't take that into consideration when I put the piston in now, did I? No, I did not. Yep. Pretty sure that my rings in there are doing their job perfectly. It's just with all three of those ring gaps in line, yeah, compression's going to be a little bit low. And when I slowly turn it over, we got to get her there first. Right there. Listen closely. Oh, hang on, I got to go around again. All right, we're coming up. Listen close. Oh, we got to go around again. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, my lanyard. Come here, little lanyard. Hold on, guys. All right, crisis averted. Now listen closely. You hear that? I hear compression leaking out the back. Meaning more than likely, I'm losing compression because those gaps are too damn close to each other. Oh, grand. Oh, you know, mechanical little mishaps. It happens. It happens. So, we're going to have to disassemble this thing. You know, I technically need to because I'm not really trusting these grease cups. I'm going to get some more grease on the main journals and everything. Grease up the piston, and I'm pretty sure I put it on backwards. I don't think there is a backwards in terms of the piston. Let me get it back here. You know that little stopper right there for your wrist pin? Well, it used to be on this side. Like I said, I'm pretty sure it doesn't really matter, because the piston shouldn't be touching the cylinder wall. It should be the rings that are doing that. But, no, you know, maybe that's the magic to make this engine run. Flip that piston back the way it was. You never know. Anyway, I know I might sound a little aggravated, and I am. You know, put a lot of work into this thing. It's just fighting me tooth and nail, but that's with every project. Every old one, that is. Especially if you're messing with this old iron. We're going to get it. So my plan is, like I said, I'm probably going to have to take the flywheels off. Got to get the piston back out of there. Got to take the head back off. We got to make a new head gasket. I'm going to rotate those rings and put some nice fresh oil on it. I'm going to get more grease in the journals. We'll have to time it again. But it's nothing we haven't done 7 million times. It's alright. The more the better. We'll know better next time. So yeah, that's why I've decided to name this thing the Successful Failure. Because look at it. It's beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous, I think. Compared to what it looked like when I got it, let's go ahead and take a quick gander at what it looked like when I pulled it out of its grave. We got it to where we wanted it to be, all nice and pretty and restored and ready to go. It's just, for some reason, it just doesn't want to come to life. Not one bit. Not one bit. So, I'm going to have to put this thing away and come back to it another time, unfortunately. It's all ready to go. I just need to figure out the issues on it. So... But luckily these engines are simple enough that hopefully it won't be that bad once I get a different mindset or figure out something. You know, it's kind of unbelievable how one of the earliest and simplest forms of a four-stroke internal combustion engine proceeds to be one of the hardest things to get going in the world. It's kind of blowing my mind. In the meantime, since I'm packing this thing up, that's going to be its spot right there, right in that general area. Is where it's going to rest up and be all nice and out of the weather. I have been working on my Cub Cadet 70. The clutch has finally gone out on it, so I've been, you know, purdying it up and just got the clutch out. And, you know, I was thinking about doing a video on it, but I figured there's plenty of other folks out there that know more than me that can explain it better than I can, probably. So... But yeah, that's what I'm doing at the moment. That was the plan after I got this thing done, was to get this thing ready to roll for next summer, because I use this thing all the time. Me and this thing go way back. As for the Oakland and other projects, well, the Oakland still needs the tires put on and everything, and unfortunately I can't do anything because there's about 10,000 years worth of snow out in the wasteland outside there, so I can't really do much. Next summer I'm going to be working on another old Toyota pickup. So that's my plans. We got that thing done, and that was my main winter project, was this old hit and miss engine. So, yeah, we got where we wanted to be, folks. We won most of the battles, but we still got one to counteract. So I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment for more content. And YAMAHSAKI out. We'll see y'all later.